Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to another CPC Strategy hosted webinar, one of many during the Q4 e-commerce brand accelerator virtual summit. So if this is your first time with us, welcome, and we hope to see more of you at the summit. If this is not your first time, welcome back. We're happy to have you here again for another webinar. We all realize Q4 and the holidays is right around the corner, so it's vital to ensure your digital media plan is optimized for increased visibility to convert shoppers during the most competitive time of year. So in this webinar, maximize conversions by balancing your e-commerce and Amazon strategy. Our speakers will be presenting on the importance of first-party data, brand equity, and building your customer database. So quickly, I want to go over summit details. So right now we have CPC Strategy kicking off today, kicking off the summit. Just 15 minutes after this presentation ends, we have Trustpilot, who will be joining us to speak towards social proof. After that, we have Nielsen Visual IQ presenting on measuring marketing effectiveness. And then tomorrow we have two presentations. We have Ad Espresso speaking towards retargeting, and we have Privy closing out the summit with their cart abandonment solutions presentation. So I would like to introduce myself. I'm Annalicia. I'm CPC Strategy's webinar coordinator. I would like to say that I know Summit, so many days, so many presentations. I'm sure you can't make them all, but rest assured that we will be sending all registrants the session recordings and slides before the end of the week when the summit is over. So rest assured you'll be getting all the slides and recordings for your notes. Secondly, I want to point out the questions tab. Per usual, I will be moderating your questions on the back end, saving them for our speakers for the last moments of Q&A and the end of the presentation. So in that GoToWebinar panel, you'll see a questions tab. Submit your questions there. I'll be queuing them up for our speakers. Also wanted to mention we have some handouts available for download as well in the GoToWebinar panel from CPC Strategy, from other partners as well. And then we ask that you join in on the poll question. We'll have one coming up in a few slides, and we'll have one towards the end. So a little bit about CPC Strategy. We are a retail-focused digital advertising company, and we focus specifically with Google Shopping, paid search, Amazon sales acceleration, as well as some creative and content optimization on Amazon, and lastly, some Facebook performance marketing as well. We're over 10 years old, we have over 500 active retail clients, and we really work full funnel with all of our clients. So without further ado, I would like to intro our speakers today. We have Lou Brannon and Michael Ward over here. Lou, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Annalicia. My name is Lou Brannon. I've been with CPC Strategy about 6 years now, and I'm a senior retail search manager.
Yeah, and I'm Michael Ward. I've been with CPC Strategy almost 3 years now, and I'm a lead retail search manager, working on a strategy support.
Great.
Yeah, excited to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, looking forward to what you guys have in store. So I will be going over the agenda really briefly, the poll question, which I'll launch in a minute. We'll be going over Ecom 101, direct-to-consumer benefits, balancing Amazon and e-commerce, kind of getting a comparison of the two platforms, cross-channel resource allocation, merchandising strategies, how to integrate your insights, and finally some key takeaways. So I will be launching the poll question now. I know Mikey and Lou, you guys can't see the poll question right now, but basically just gauging the audience, seeing where everyone sells today that's in our audience. So options are e-commerce site only is where they sell, Amazon only is where you sell, or both e-commerce and Amazon. And I know we're getting, oh great. Seems like I'll close the poll now and read the results to you all. So 43% sell on e-commerce only. Makes sense. It's our e-commerce brand accelerator summit. 6% of our audience is Amazon only, and about 51% is both. They sell both on Amazon and e-commerce. Okay, so we got a good group. I will now let Mikey kick it off with the presentation.
Awesome, thanks. And to start, I want to kick things off with just talking about e-commerce 101 and just the benefits of going direct to consumer. So those of you that are e-commerce only obviously know a lot of this information already, but it's really just to back up why going direct to consumer and having your own e-commerce site is so important, and what are the advantages of having that compared to being on Amazon only. And so one of the biggest reasons that you should have an e-commerce site and the biggest benefits is brand equity. Like, you simply can't have a better platform for getting across your brand story and building brand equity than your own e-commerce site. It's, a launch pad for your brand, content hub, everything you can have there. So you really can connect with your audience and tell your brand story in a way that's totally controllable by you. Amazon is trying to move in that space with some premium content, but they still don't match the offering that any sort of e-commerce site can have. The second main benefit is first-party data. You can obviously build email lists, get repeat purchases, find similar customers, and acquire new customers at a lower cost. So just having that access to first-party data, which is something you don't necessarily have as much of on the Amazon side, is super important. And the third thing is lifetime value. And lifetime value is one of the most important metrics you can use when building out your e-commerce strategy. You can foster a direct relationship with the customers, turn revenue acquisition and stop thinking of it as just a pure one-off transactional relationship and turn it into a customer acquisition type of relationship where you, instead of just getting one sale, you acquire a customer that you can then retarget, re-engage, and bring back to your site and eventually make a brand loyalist. And so by that way, you can kind of make the math a little bit more mathematical in saying that, what is a customer worth to you as opposed to what is one transaction worth to you. And kind of building off this into the why customer lifetime value, here's some really interesting stats from RJ Metrics. The top 1% of customers are worth 18 times more than the average customer. So that means finding that 1% is key because that's one customer is worth 18 customers, new customers. So, and the likelihood for a customer to make a second purchase is close to 30%, but it's a multiplier effect. So once that they make that second purchase, for a third purchase, it jumps past 50%. So if you can get that person to buy from you a third time, then all of a sudden they become almost like a loyalist, where they're very much more likely to purchase from you going forward. So it's really important to re-engage with customers and get them to buy from you not only once, but twice and even 3 times. And going forward, the fastest growing e-commerce companies have a customer lifetime value 79% higher than their peers, which is really interesting. It shows that the brands that are kind of winning the modern digital customer are the ones who know about lifetime value and are really focusing on it and trying to build that customer base instead of just trying to win transactions. So why you want to foster customer lifetime value? Again, it's kind of what we just talked about. It's acquiring customers. It's more than just a revenue profit acquisition one-off. As customer acquisition becomes more competitive, the landscapes gets more crowded as people invest more in digital. You really need to find those customers who are going to be your loyalists and have a strategy to re-engage them. So, ways you can do this is leveraging that first-party data, which you can collect on your e-commerce site, finding similar audiences, and acquiring customers at lower cost, which are all things you can do while having an e-commerce site. So, one of the big benefits is to having an e-commerce site is leveraging, the brand equity and the first-party data to leverage that into customer lifetime value.
Yeah, and just to jump in, one of the questions that we get a lot is around some of these stats, like top 20% of customers generate roughly 70% of your revenue. And on the previous slide, we talked about how the top 1% of customers are 18 times more valuable. Really what it comes down to is creating those VIP customers. And when we talk about the brands that are doing well in today's digital world, it's those people that are able to create those VIP customers, just like Mike was saying. So when we say top 1%, we obviously mean the people that the top 1% in terms of purchasers, top 1% of purchasers on your website, and then the top 20% of customers being the top 20% of purchasers on. And so it is all about creating that. And like we mentioned, Amazon does not do as good of a job as you can do on your own e-commerce website of creating that platform to generate those VIP behaviors from your clients. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of building off what you said, Lou, going into the directly comparing Amazon and e-commerce, you can see, you want to fish where the fish are is a phrase like we like to use here. So obviously why sell on Amazon? Right now, 54% of purchases begin on Amazon, but still 46% start on Google or a search engine or an e-commerce site. So thinking long-term, having a D2C e-commerce strategy, even though Amazon has emerged and has come on strong lately, D2C e-commerce strategy is still very important, and you want to capture that demand that is there, not only on Amazon, but on the D2C site and especially on search engines as well.
And also another key point to make on this slide is that people see this and you might think, okay, Google used to be 54% share of first product searches, and now it's 46% is declining and vice versa for Amazon. But again, even though a lot of more people are going now to Amazon to start their product search, if they've never heard of your brand, when they see it pop up in the search results, they're not very likely to click on it. So it doesn't diminish the fact that you still need to be buying traffic to your e-commerce website, building your brand, having that content hub, etc. Because yes, people are starting their search more often now on Amazon than they did a few years ago, but you still have to make sure that you're building that brand equity by all means, so that you can take advantage and capture the demand on Amazon. Build the demand in the upper funnel, capture it on Amazon. So don't be discouraged by this graph if you're primarily a Google advertiser and an e-com seller. There's still ways to take advantage of both.
Yeah, exactly. Because as we said earlier, like there's no better place for someone to learn about your brand than on your e-commerce site. So by someone starting off on Amazon could very well then try to Google you, try to go pull up your e-commerce website to learn about your product before they eventually purchase either on your e-commerce site or on Amazon. So having that kind of hub for your brand is super important. And so going into kind of the more specifics on the channel comparisons, basically this compares the cost of acquiring traffic and cost of revenue on Amazon versus e-commerce. Obviously, Amazon has a lot of benefits here in that Amazon generates a lot of traffic. People go to Amazon first. You can advertise on Amazon. There are starting to be ways where you can drive off Amazon traffic to Amazon. There are a couple things with attribution that make it a bit of a challenge, but there are now a few ways to get over that attribution issue. But you have to pay Amazon fees, advertising costs, and fulfillment, which are all pretty strong costs on Amazon. On e-commerce, obviously, you have to work on your site development and upkeep. That's a pretty big sunk cost, but you can get, and you have to pay for traffic to your site if you want to start growing your brand, but then you start to get earned and owed media, which is then helpful for building traffic organically without having to pay outside of the site development and upkeep. And the retailer is obviously a lot more responsible. So, there's advertising costs and fulfillment costs as well. So overall, we've seen the costs are about the same to maintaining a strong Amazon presence to maintaining a strong e-commerce presence. But here's where we start to see the big differences between Amazon and e-commerce. Branding and brand equity. As we kind of talked about before, e-commerce is really the way to go if you want to build that branding and brand equity. Amazon's making some strides to that towards their PDP content. EBC, A+ pages are all, Amazon storefronts, their DSP offering in terms of, display advertising. They're really trying to up their game in terms of branding and brand equity, but still nothing compares to the site and the brand launchpad and content hub it can be. By having one spot where you can tell your brand message, engage customers how you want to, and then from there, once they're on your site, you can cookie them, you can retarget them, you can email them. I mean, email marketing is an industry all on its own because of this. There's social channels where you can reach out to customers and drive them to your e-commerce page, or engage them with social channels. So there's a whole lot more you can do with an e-commerce site in terms of branding and brand equity that you can do on Amazon. So, I mean, for the 7% that are Amazon sellers only, it's really important to have an e-commerce presence to tell that brand story.
I do want to touch on DSP really quickly, this last bullet point here on the Amazon side, because this was formerly known as AAP, Amazon Advertising Platform. This is something to look out for in terms of potentially a transformative platform here. Now Amazon has created their own demand side platform that you can plug into, get access to their shopping data, behavioral data, and actually target people not only on Amazon with display advertising, but also on their network of websites and web content. And actually, you can drive traffic to your Amazon detail pages, or you could potentially drive traffic to your e-com site. So this is kind of a blending of both worlds. So Amazon obviously recognizes that they have a lot of power in terms of shopping data that they need to be able to diversify and use in different ways. But again, as Mike was saying, still no substitute for having your own e-commerce website and being able to build your brand and have that content hub. But definitely want to, you guys to keep an eye out for DSP through Amazon and potentially utilize that. We know certainly here at our agency, we are looking forward to, building out the DSP capabilities for our clients. We think that's going to be pretty big.
Yeah, exactly. And Amazon knows this, so they're making strides every day to try to close that gap. So going back to
so on this slide, what we really want to show here is we've been talking about the comparisons between both the e-com site and Amazon. So this is just a quick little chart to show you that if you're really focused on building your customer lifetime value and your brand loyalty, this is where e-commerce really thrives and is really successful here. On this end, in terms of immediate sales velocity, let's see. Okay, so excuse me, let's go back one slide. We skipped over this slide. Mike, you want to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sorry about that. Went too far. Yeah. So, and the third thing to talk about in the channel comparisons is the customer retention and lifetime value. So, there's DSP offerings for Amazon, including ASIN retargeting. That's what we were talking about here. And so, trying to re-engage with customers, like before the previous slide. Amazon is trying to make strides to, try to retarget customers and build customer retention lifetime value. And so that's why they're offering, DSP ASIN retargeting. They are giving advertisers some data sets, but they're gated, right? They're predefined by Amazon. You can't control really what they give you. So you just kind of take what they give you and try to use it to the best, of your ability. Whereas e-commerce, like there's so many more options for search and display retargeting. You have access to that first party data and that raw first party data where you can segment it however you want. You can build out custom audiences. You can set up similar audiences within search and display or social offerings. You can, retarget those people for email. You can have a full blog presence to build out your branding and brand equity. So there's so much more you can do in e-commerce compared to Amazon. But like with all the previous slides, Amazon is making strides, but e-commerce right now is the clear king in terms of customer retention and building that lifetime value.
Yeah, and then just back to this slide quickly, we just wanted to show the strong points of each. On the left side, you can see the shopping cart representing the e-commerce website, really good at customer lifetime value and brand loyalty. And then obviously Amazon driving immediate sales velocity that's that bottom funnel channel. And so we'll talk about a little bit later on kind of where the optimal brand lives in this chart. So just to kind of set the stage for later with this chart here.
Yeah, exactly. And now we kind of want to get into how you should allocate resources between channels, because a lot of you, obviously, in this webinar do have presence on both Amazon and Google. So how do you allocate those resources? How do you kind of determine how much you should be spending on Amazon versus e-commerce, or how much profit you should be getting there? So the main way to think about it is all about profit. Where are you getting the most value for your dollar spent? So you should really think about investing into each channel based on how much profit you're getting from each channel, especially how much incremental profit. So if I spend $1 extra on Amazon or $1 extra on my e-commerce site, what's the return I'm going to get? So we're kind of going to dive into that. And so this chart is really to show where a lot of advertisers and businesses think they are. They think they're maximizing their total investment because they start to see that revenue start to slide off a little bit, but that's because they're not necessarily thinking about customer lifetime value, and they're kind of treating customer acquisition as a one-off transactional nature. Whereas reality, if you started to spend more, say you moved up your CPA goal in this example from $60 to $90, you can actually build your profit even though revenue starts to taper off, because you're maximizing your visibility and making sure you're re-engaging customers and building that lifetime value.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, oftentimes a common scenario for us at the agency is that we get very strict cost per acquisition, cost per sale goals from our clients because they think that they are only profitable when they're hitting that number. But we're able to show through time that in many cases, if you actually raise that goal slightly and you have a good understanding of lifetime value measurement and actual profitability with that baked in, we do see that as the revenue, as Mike said, starts to kind of even out, your profitability can still grow if you raise that target as we bake in that lifetime value. And then obviously it will start to decline over time if you're losing efficiency over here. But it's all about finding that maximum profitability point. And we know that that's tough, but we're trying to think about this in that way and help you guys kind of think in that way as well. And that definitely provides dividends over time.
Exactly. And so getting into like the channel characteristics when it comes to resource allocation, I mean, Amazon it's a demand capture beast. It's a machine. There's obviously so much demand on there. It's such a strong transactional website. Product search is increasingly starting there. However, there's just a limited ability to tell brand story and foster loyalty. On e-commerce, it's a bit harder because you have to generate that demand to your site. So there's a lot more effort that needs to go into that. But once they get to your site, there's nothing better as a brand launch pad. And so that's what we kind of refer to as an engine of customer loyalty, because you have all those tools for re-engaging customers, telling your brand story, getting all that messaging across. In regards with driving traffic, Amazon, it's hard to beat what Amazon has in terms of demand capture, but e-commerce, it's really good for demand generation.
Yeah, and going back to that last slide, as we just mentioned, in order to reach that maximum profitability, that's really the key, is getting that customer loyalty. So if you can't really drive a high customer lifetime value through your e-com site, you're not, this chart's going to be kind of irrelevant to you. So I just wanted to tie that back in there as well. So.
Yeah. And so now we're kind of going to get into a formula that I'll explain a little bit. So to start out, we want to see if this chart pretty much shows if incremental investment in Amazon or your e-commerce site is greater than the profit generated by the opposite channel, then continue to invest in the first channel. And so I'll unpack this a little bit further. So say an example, if you have $5 extra to spend on Amazon, and for that $5 extra, you're going to get $10 back. And if you spend that $5 extra on your e-commerce site, you only get $8 back, then we recommend obviously invest that money towards your Amazon channel. But the key thing you need to bake into your e-commerce is customer lifetime value. So say you're only getting $8 extra on that $5 initial spend on that first transaction, but you're going to get an extra $10 on the back end because that customer is more likely to come back and repurchase, then all of a sudden your e-commerce site becomes much more worth investing in and more worth Amazon at that point. So that's really what this chart's trying to show, is make sure you're baking in customer lifetime value to your e-commerce metrics when you're trying to divide up how you're going to allocate resources between Amazon and your e-commerce site. And that kind of brings me to the last slide, in that, an omni-channel optimized merchant does have a presence on both. And it can skew one way or another. You can be mostly e-commerce with a little bit of Amazon, or mostly Amazon with a little bit of e-commerce, but you need to have a presence on both. And the companies of, going into the next 5-10 years are going to really have a good channel presence on both Amazon and e-commerce, and have both channels be optimized, and also be looking at those channels in unison to continually be reallocating budget and investment and seeing how each channel operates. And that's kind of what we got to get into the next part of the presentation with Lou. He wants to really dive into the cross-channel strategies, starting with merchandising.
Yeah, exactly. So as Mike was saying, what we've seen are the brands that are being really successful are brands that are investing significantly in both channels and really nurturing both channels with the understanding of how they play together. We are in obviously an omni-channel world, an integrated media landscape now, where the customer journey is so long and they're visiting so many different places. So with this in mind, we want to look at, if you are on both Amazon and on Google, especially if you're advertising on both pretty heavily, in terms of you're using Google and search engine marketing to drive traffic to your e-commerce website, and you're investing actively in Amazon advertising, we want to look at some different strategies and different trends and things that we're seeing across channels to help you guys out. So first thing we want to talk about is merchandising strategies. One question that we get a lot is, if I'm launching a new product, should I launch it first on my e-commerce website? Should I launch it on Amazon? Should I launch it only on the e-commerce website and then sell much later, or liquidate on Amazon, etc.? Kind of unpacking that a little bit. So want to look at the pros of launching a product on e-commerce versus Amazon. So presumably, if you're launching a new product, you're going to be doing some social or some upper funnel branding investment through display or through social, or whatever it may be, through video. And so in order to really fully take advantage of these new customers that you're trying to reach, you can drive that traffic to your e-commerce website first. And that really allows you to take the most advantage of that, because of all those things that we've just mentioned, being able to capture emails, being able to retarget, etc. So if you are spending in the upper funnel to launch a product, you want to make sure that you're first driving them to your e-commerce website. Secondly, you can collect a lot of that search and keyword data that you're doing through your search engine campaigns, for example. You can collect that and later utilize that to streamline your approach through Amazon, whether that be through the actual content on your Amazon product detail pages, enhanced brand content. You can leverage a lot of that search data that you get from driving traffic to your e-commerce website and use that to streamline your approach on Amazon. And then lastly, and I think this one's pretty important, is when you're launching a product on your e-com site as opposed to Amazon, you can create a little bit of exclusivity and you can create a little bit of fear of missing out. If you bake that into your advertising approach and let people know that, hey, this is a new product only available for a limited time on our e-com site, or whatever it may be, just trying to create that exclusivity and fear of missing out is a good approach there for launching it on your e-commerce website. And again, as we've talked about, you have so much more control in terms of your messaging and how you promote it on the website. What about on Amazon though? There are some pros to launching a product on Amazon as opposed to your e-commerce website, especially if maybe your e-commerce website is in its infancy stages. You're not, completely dialed in with fulfillment and measurement, etc. Obviously, the conversion rate is astronomical on Amazon, so you're going to get sales on Amazon quickly. There also is an organic halo effect. Understanding that your Amazon product detail pages are on an Amazon.com domain, those rank well in search engines. So if you're pushing a new product on Amazon, you can then start to see potentially more organic traffic coming into Amazon on those product detail pages over time. You can also quickly start to generate reviews on your products, which also has that bit of a halo effect. As we know, higher reviewed and better reviewed products sell better. Lastly, though, attribution is important. If you're going to launch a product on Amazon, especially if you're going to advertise off Amazon and send traffic to your Amazon pages and kind of go all in on a product launch on Amazon, you want to make sure that you have some attribution in place, whether that be through Amazon's new attribution beta, which is coming out or maybe already out, but I'm not sure if many people have access to it yet, or whether you're using a web to Amazon strategy and you have that Amazon analytics platform. It's important to be thinking about attribution if you're going to send a lot of traffic there from off Amazon, certainly. So there are pros to both. The next thing we want to talk about is web exclusives. We have a lot of clients who do sell on both. They have a strong e-commerce presence. They also have a strong Amazon presence. And one of the things that they talk about a lot is how do we differentiate our e-commerce experience from our Amazon experience? How do we get people excited about buying something on our own website as opposed to Amazon? And so a way that you can kind of break down that or break away from that kind of product commoditization is you can create web exclusives. So what that means is certain products in your catalog that you only sell on your website as opposed to selling everything, one-to-one on Amazon and on your e-commerce website. Web exclusives are a way to create that exclusivity or fear of missing out. Obviously, you can promote these in a certain way to your existing customers where you can say, hey, you're one of our most valued customers. We're letting you know about an exclusive product that we have on our website. It's not available anywhere. It's not available on Amazon. It's only available on our .com, and we want to let you know that it's available now. That kind of rewards that customer and encourages them to advocate for your brand, and it increases that lifetime value. If you as a brand are giving these kind of cool, unique opportunities to your customers, that encourages them to talk about it with their friends, share it on social media, and buy that product on your website. And those kind of little things can start to increase that lifetime value over time if you're doing that stuff consistently. And just a couple stats on the right, just to show you for an example of one of the clients that pushed a web exclusive and they really aligned all their paid media campaigns to support this messaging. They actually saw a month over month 28% increase in overall conversions. Now, it wasn't on that one particular product only, but creating that kind of buzz around a web exclusive product led to an overall 28% lift in conversions on their website. And lastly, the last stat is a 36% lift in category sales. This was actually a year-over-year measurement for a different client that pushed a web exclusive colorway. All they did was they had an existing product style and they created a few colors or a few colorways of that product, sold it exclusively on their website. And when we looked at that month, year over year, they actually had a 36% lift in sales for that category of product. So again, kind of that halo effect, getting people excited about shopping on the e-commerce website. We saw some pretty solid results from those two tests. All right, another thing that we're really into talking about and measuring here at CPC Strategy right now is how can we integrate insights across our search engine and display and social advertising, and also look at what we're doing within our Amazon advertising and see how we can integrate those insights to maximize performance on both. So there are a few key things that we want to talk about. The first thing is keywords and search queries. Obviously, as a search engine marketing advertiser, you are dealing with a lot of search query data, not only through search engine marketing, but also through other things that you might be utilizing, even looking at your organic search data or whatever kind of search data, site search data from your Google Analytics platform or your web analytics platform. Any kind of search data that you can get, the majority of it being search engine marketing platforms, you can actually leverage that across both channels. So what keywords are doing well on Google, and how can we use that to streamline our approach on headline search ads on Amazon, for example. The second one being product sales and product velocity, sales velocity, and just sales trends in general. This is one thing that we feel goes underutilized. You have a lot of data that you can get from Seller Central, for example, on Amazon that shows you which products are selling, which ASINs are selling, which ones are trending, especially if you're utilizing, like, for example, our CapEx platform here, where we're able to trend that out over time and look at category sales and stuff like that. We can start to look at those trends, and the same can be said for other advertising that you're doing to your e-commerce website. Which products are selling, which, if you're doing Google Shopping, for example, which product IDs are trending up or down. You need to be leveraging that across both so that you can bake that into your approach in terms of what you're spending your dollars on. You need to be keeping a pulse on those product sales. The third point would be scaled ad copy learnings. On both Amazon and on Google and Bing and search engines and even social, you have ad copy that you're utilizing across the board. Understanding how each, key calls to action or headlines or ad copy configurations that you're using on each channel, how are they doing? Having that learning across all of them can help you optimize your approach across all of them. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit about impression share and auction insights, and we'll get into this in these slides. So again, key reports here that we want you guys to look at. First, on the left side is keyword and query reports. So looking both in Amazon and in Google, for example, to eliminate the guesswork, like what does well, what doesn't do well. Look for new opportunities. We see a lot of times that there are lists of keywords that do really, really well on Google that are not even being leveraged on Amazon to create headline search ads, for example. We share that across teams here at CPC Strategy, and we can equip our Amazon team, for example, with the top performing searches every week, every month, so that they can then turn those into highly effective headline search ad campaigns through Amazon. And again, I think the big opportunity here is mining for opportunities, having a keen eye on new trending searches that can allow you to accelerate growth. You don't want to become stagnant buying the same exact keywords over time. You want to look for those new opportunities on both channels. And Amazon actually, reversing that and looking vice versa, Amazon trending searches is a great way to look for new opportunities on new keywords that you should be buying on Google as well. So it definitely goes both ways. Secondly, the sales velocity. When we talk about looking at sales velocity reports, we talk about understanding what is selling and what is trending on Amazon, and should we be strategically changing our bids on Google to align with that. If we notice, if we're a seller of pet equipment and we notice that, Chewy bones or whatever are actually trending up this month, and we have those bid really far down on Google because of previous months worth of maybe stagnant performance, we might consider tweaking our bids up a little bit on Google because we see that that's a trending term, and we can kind of get ahead of the curve and anticipate these types of things better. And then lastly, it helps with budget planning. Of course, if we know which products or which categories are trending up or down, we can then allocate our budgets properly. And then lastly, auction insights is important. One key thing to talk about is how, and surely you guys have experienced this, as you start to ramp up your advertising on Amazon, and maybe you start to sell a lot more on Amazon as a result of your increased advertising presence, you start to see that Amazon themselves is now bidding on your branded terms on Google, and it's driving up your costs on Google or on Bing. And that's a common scenario that we see because obviously Amazon has their own search engine marketing platform where they need to generate traffic from search engines to Amazon. And if you're a brand or you have a product that's doing really well on Amazon and you're pumping a lot of ad spend into it on Amazon and it's selling, then you are going to see some associated effects on the CPCs that you're paying on Google, because as I mentioned, Amazon is then going to be increasing the auction competition on Google for your brand terms. So having insight into how much you're spending on Amazon and how that is affecting your Google CPCs is actually super, super powerful, because it can not only give you just the context as to like, hey, why are our CPCs rising so much on Google? It gives you that context, but it also allows you, and this point is really crucial, to strategically test different things. Some of the things that we're experimenting with here at CPC Strategy are clients that are advertising across both platforms. We might see that for a given keyword, the CPC is really spiking on Google because their sales are so high on Amazon for that category. So we might test out actually lowering our bids on Google for that category and just kind of allowing Amazon to take all that traffic for a period of time and seeing how that affects our overall sales. Does that do our combined sales between Amazon and our e-commerce site still continue to match up? And are we now more efficient because we're allowing Amazon to just go ahead and take all of that traffic for that given category? Or as a result, are we losing overall sales from e-com and our overall profitability is potentially taking a hit? These types of strategic tests, by having insight into these things across channel, are very interesting and something that you guys should probably be doing, and we're trying to do that for our clients. Lastly, I want to talk about the Omnichannel Reporting Hub. This is just a Trello board example. We utilize Trello and Basecamp, and even some people use Asana and other types of project management. So it really doesn't matter what type of project management tool you're using. But if you're an organization that is advertising on both Amazon and on social and on search engines, for example, you want to have a omnichannel reporting hub set up where all teams can have access to this. You can look at search engine reports in terms of keyword reports, ad copy reports. You can look at your social reports. You can see which ad copy, which audiences are doing well. You can look at Amazon sales reports. And so our team has access to all of these reports at a given time. We can see kind of what ideas we have in the sandbox over here, what active tests we're running, stuff like that. So this is just a quick example of how you might think about integrating insights across your teams. And as we move forward in this integrated media world and this omni-channel world, and understanding how important this is for brands, just to have this kind of dashboard or meeting place for all your teams to come and grab insights from is super key. And I think that you guys should be experimenting with how to set up these kind of shared insights. All right, so I'll kick it back over to Mike and kind of discuss the key takeaways here. We're going to wrap up. I think we have a few more minutes for Q&A after this as well, but Mike, why don't you take us home here?
Yeah, for sure. And for the few of you that are just Amazon only sellers, like as the next, you definitely should secure Amazon Foundation. Make sure it's strong, profitable before launching e-commerce, because you want to make sure for the demand capture engine, you do have your kind of house in order before you start launching e-commerce. But we do want to highlight it is very important to have an e-commerce hub. There's no denying that the leverage you can get with e-commerce in terms of driving customer lifetime value is huge. So you should definitely be looking into that once you make sure your Amazon Foundation is strong and profitable. If you're e-commerce only, just remember, shoppers are on Amazon too. As that stat said, 52% of product searches start on Amazon now. So you want to make sure that you are leveraging Amazon. And if you don't want to have too many sales funnel over to Amazon, because it is a tricky balance in launching Amazon and having to pay those fees associated with Amazon compared to your e-commerce site. There are strategies such as selective product release, using Amazon as a liquidation only channel, so just sending your kind of overstocked products that you want to get rid of and clear out of inventory, using Amazon as a channel for that, or also just using Amazon as a full price catalog so you can capture that active intent. So there are kind of few steps you can take as an e-commerce only seller, so it really depends business to business which is best for you. And if you're selling on both, as Lou was talking about, really integrating cross-channel insights is super key. Because the landscape changes, weekly, monthly. So it's important to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of both your e-commerce site and your Amazon site to make sure you're taking advantage of any emerging trends, any declining trends, and learning from both channels, because having both Amazon and your e-commerce site as data sources is huge. And so instead of just having one or the other and kind of siloing them off, combining that data set and you just have so much more insight into what's working, what isn't, what's trending up, down, and being able to reallocate resources to and fro. So, for that way you can look at the profitability and really just allocate based on the profitability there too. If you see that, updating your headline search ads drives a lot more profit than updating, say, your Google text ads, maybe that's where you should invest more of your time. Just little things like that you should constantly be evaluating over time. It's important. And I kind of just want to finish up with this last slide, going back to, having an e-commerce presence and having an Amazon presence is great. Amazon for that immediate sales velocity, e-commerce presence as your kind of CLV and brand loyalty engine. Having both of those is really important. So again, skewing one way or another depending on your business is okay. And if you have more of one or the other, that's totally fine depending on what kind of business you're operating. But really having both presence, and especially this day and age, considering the split of where product searches are and where customers are, that's really important to have both. A good, strong presence on both, and having them talk to each other and have an integrated media strategy between Amazon and your e-commerce site.
Thank you, Michael. So I'll take it from here. So Lou and Mikey went over the importance of having a presence on both Amazon and e-commerce, but it might be a missed opportunity to not integrate insights to maximize performance, just as they mentioned, sales, keywords, ad campaigns, and so on. So if you would like to schedule some time to speak with CPC strategy experts to see what it would be like to work with these integrated insights, to have an agency that helps you balance your Amazon and your e-commerce strategies, let us know. I have this poll up for you all. If you would like to schedule an e-commerce strategy evaluation with us, let us know what you're focused on today. If you're not ready, you're not interested at this time, you can definitely put no. But just going to keep this poll up for a little bit during the Q&A, so you will have a chance to answer. And don't worry, I will not be showing these results to the audience. This will be kept private. So Lou and Mikey, you guys answered a few questions along the way, but now I'm going to get to a couple. We have one here from Adil. Hope I said that correctly. So how can you use customer data to retarget and resell products to a customer when maybe their first time purchase was maybe a little bit niche? Do you still recommend retargeting maybe with other products?
Yeah, if their purchase was a niche purchase, I mean, I don't think that it really matters what their first purchase was. You're still going to have the same ability to retarget that person, whether it be through a retargeting pixel that you have on your website. So if you have the retargeting pixel set up properly, then you should be able to recognize what pages that person visited, what products they bought. And conversely, if you don't have the retargeting pixel set up, you still have their email address, presumably. So using your, just baking that user into your standard retargeting strategy is the first step. Like, you want to be retargeting all people who purchased from your website. So if you're running retargeting campaigns, one of the criteria of your retargeting campaigns, or one of the ad groups or ad sets or audiences in your retargeting campaign, should be past purchasers. And there are different schools of thought on how soon after the purchase you should retarget people. Some campaigns perform really well when you retarget people the same day and you try to upsell them or cross-sell them. Some people or advertisers like to wait a period of time before you start retargeting. But yes, I mean, even if it's a niche product, you should still retarget them. If it is a niche product, maybe you have unique opportunities to upsell them on a complementary product or cross-sell them on another product that goes with that, for example. But it really just depends on, I think, what the product is. But the short answer would be, it doesn't really matter what they buy or who they are. If they buy from your website, you want to retarget them moving forward.
Yeah, and to add on, it's really hard to judge intent. Just because they bought a niche product doesn't mean they might not also be interested in one of the more non-niche products that you sell. Or, I mean, also in general, one thing we want to do is just retarget and then test based on what we're seeing as results. So if we see a lot of people buying niche products and we're trying to leverage them and retarget them, and we're not seeing too many people come back, then we can probably invest less in that. So it's all judging it based on performance as well.
Got it. Thank you. So yes, keep retargeting basically. So another question here. I know we're run out of time, so one last question. Anna's wondering, what are the best strategies to convert Amazon customers to your e-commerce site, your direct-to-consumer e-commerce site, without violating Amazon's policies? Are there any ways that you can kind of push your Amazon customers to your e-commerce site?
Yeah, not really, unfortunately. Amazon, you can't capture emails from people who purchase on Amazon. As far as I know at this current time, I know there's some buzz about potentially that being an offering down the line. But no, I mean, Amazon has all that data. It's gated by them. So kind of intelligently by Amazon, they want to keep all the purchase data unique to themselves so that they can then charge other advertisers for that data. But no, if you as a merchant, if you have people buying on Amazon, it's really hard to speak to that person one-on-one and try and compel them to take another action, especially on your own e-commerce website. So that's why it's so key to have that e-commerce presence, so you can, do the opposite, which is speak to people who buy from your website. And maybe at some point you do want to drive those people to buy on Amazon. You can do it in that direction. But the other direction right now, no, there's not really any strategies that we can recommend, I don't think, because it's just a gated data set, right, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Amazon really knows that, e-commerce sites want to do that, and they want to drive people to their e-commerce sites and not have to go through the Amazon system. So Amazon does its best to try to prevent that at all costs. So that's why it's really important to have, as Lou said, have a strategy that, you have a strong brand presence. So even if someone has bought from you and you can't really engage them in terms of retargeting them or anything, they know your brand, and when they do eventually search for you and go to your e-commerce page, you have a strong presence, you can tell a compelling story. So maybe the next time they buy from you, but it's really hard to track that customer and retarget them.
Which is why you got to build your customer database on your e-commerce site, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so unfortunately we have run over time, so we have to wrap it up for now. I know there are a few questions that were left unanswered, and I want to apologize for that. Reach out to us if you still have any questions. But thank you, Mikey and Lou, for going over the presentation. And thank you all for being in attendance today. We understand that 45 minutes to an hour is a lot of your time, so thank you for choosing to spend it here with us. So please log back in if you'd like to join Trustpilot's presentation. It's coming out in about 12 minutes now, and they'll be focusing more on social marketing and social proof. So tune back in 10 minutes. But thank you, Michael and Lou, for the presentation, and thank you all for being in attendance today.
Enjoyed it. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Bye.